The castration of male pigs used to be taken for granted. This is no longer so obvious. It is considered a violation of animal integrity and welfare. Ending castration also offers environmental benefits. We will explain this. Respecting the animal integrity by not castrating means no pain and no stress. Not castrating also reduces the risk of infections. This ensures better animal health and an increase in the well-being of pigs. Because uncastrated pigs utilize their feed better, this results in 7 to 9% lower feed cost. However, it is recognized that some sensitive people perceive a somewhat different smell when the meat of entire male pigs is heated. Smell detection at the meat plant functions as a safety net so that pork supply chains guarantee the consumer being served with good meat quality. In addition, the risk of this different smell can be reduced by a combination of preventative measures, adjusting the feed, the right housing, and genomics. This results in less unpleasant work for the farmer. Citizens and farmers like it when the integrity of the animal is respected and the meat quality is guaranteed. Better feed utilization is also a benefit for the environment. It is calculated that an EU-wide transition to producing entire male pigs is equal to 300,000 hectares agricultural land saved. And finally, the better feed utilization results in a lower carbon footprint of pork meat. For the 100 million castrated pigs in Europe annually slaughtered, this results in 4.4 million tons CO2 equivalents per year saved. So entire male pigs are better for the pig, the farmer, and the environment.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome at this webinar, the first webinar of Pig Progress in 2023. And today we're going to talk about a special subject, one that you may not always want to think about, but that is certainly important to ensure a sustainable future, and that is castration. Frequent viewers of Pig Progress webinars will notice that we're in slightly different surroundings than normally, and that is because we are live from the MISIT headquarters in Doetinchem in the Netherlands. So that is special for this webinar today. Here in the Netherlands, it is 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and my name is Vincent de Beek. I'm editor for Pig Progress, and I will be the host for the next 60 minutes. I will not do this webinar on my own. As you can see, we'll have a full table here. On my right is Annegien ten Have Mellema. She's owner of swine farm Hamlets in the north of the Netherlands, and she has plenty of experience with castration. And on the right of her is Dr. G. Bakkes, and he's director of Connecting Agri and Food. And he is well known in the world of swine production and also trying to get more support for producing without castration. At a distance, we are joined by Mathieu Pecker, and he is with us on behalf of French pig cooperative Coperle. What we're going to do today is that we're going to have 2 short presentations. They will set the scene for the topic that we're going to talk about, and there will be plenty of opportunities for questions and answers afterwards. In case you have any question for any of the speakers, just fill it out on the screen that you can see. Any question will appear with us on the screen straight away, and we can ask them to the speakers. And in case questions do not get answered, then we will follow them up by email. But I'm sure Annegien and I will be able to manage most of the questions. But first, I would like to ask a question to you, because for your idea, if you were to stop castrating right now, what for you would be the most important reason for that? I've got 5 options for you. Kindly just pick the option of your choice. Would that be animal welfare? Would that be lower feed costs? The task of castration? Would that be pig health? Or would it be the environment? Just make your choice. We'll see the answers rolling in live. And whilst we do that, I'd like to ask Annegien that same question, because you have stopped castration for quite a long time. What was for you the convincing reason to stop with it?
Yes, we already stopped since 1995.
Yeah.
The main reason was that my husband, he is not coming from a pig farm,
Mhm.
and he didn't like castration at all. So today we are going to stop that.
Okay, castration. And G, what would be for you the most convincing reason to stop castrating?
I have two. First of all, for me, the integrity of the animal is important. And second one, I'm son of a pig farmer. And when I was a boy, I really disliked the job.
Okay, no, dislike of the job and animal welfare there as well. If we look at the screen, we see here that animal welfare is by far scoring the most points. I think 63% of our people present vote for that one. Is that something you would expect? That animal welfare amongst the people is the most important reason? Yeah, I see that. Excellent. Well, I'm happy that everybody is joining us because we're going to talk about this topic in more detail today. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our first speaker, and he is with us at a distance. That is Mathieu Pecker. He's External Relations Manager at Coopel in France. As you know, that is the largest swine cooperative in France, and they have been able to create an atmosphere where producers can produce without applying castration. He's going to explain what that means for the animal and what that means for the food chain as well. Mathieu, welcome, and take it away.
Hello, Mathieu Pecker. I'm very pleased to participate this webinar to share the experience of Coopel in production of entire male pig. First, I have to explain the organization of Coopel, because this organization is very linked to the capacity we had to produce entire male pig. We are a cooperative of pig producer. We have 3,000 member in our cooperative, and we also produce feed for our farmer. We also propose them solution for their building, for all the solution in their farm or informatic, everything else. Coopel has invest in slaughterhouse. We have 3 slaughterhouse in Coopel, and we also have many plants for processed meat. And at the end, we have some shops to send our product. It's not the majority of our market, of course, but it's a way for us to have linked with consumer. Another special branch in our cooperative is the environmental branch, to propose our producer environmental solution. All of these branches are very complementary, and if I insist on it, it's because in our success to produce entire male pig, the complementary between all these branches is very important to allow us to produce entire male pig. At the beginning, we try to produce some uncastrated male in 2008 because we were challenged by our customers, retailer. We were globally challenged on welfare and especially on stopping castration. That's why at this beginning of 2008, we produced some try to produce uncastrated male in a few parts of our producer. It was a long work to succeed in doing it, to optimize this production and to find all the best practice to produce uncastrated male. It was 4 years of works. It was a big investment in some millions of euro to be able to produce this uncastrated male. And in 2013, we were able to commercialize uncastrated male and to generalize to all our producer the possibility to stop castration for their pigs. It was also a good benefits to allow us to start the production of antibiotic-free porks. As it was said at the beginning of this webinar, the stop castration is of course, a good practice for animals, for pigs, for their integrity, but it's also a very good practice for our farmers. As I said, Cooper is a cooperative of farmers. They are the owner of the cooperative, and the main beneficiary of stopping castration are farmers. It is not very pleasant work for our farmers, and I could say even if there was no else interest, our member will know restart castration. That's very important for them, but also it's interesting for them for a lot of part in their practice daily. There's a reduction of feed consumption. We measure it. We were able to know the advantage and the economic rentability of the stop castration for our farmers. It also improves animals' health. Their robustness, and they have less injuries, so which was a benefit for our farmers. That's why we were able to reduce consumption of antibiotic and then produce free antibiotic pigs. Today, we have a huge part of our producer who stopped using antibiotics, or I have to say we are in an antibiotic free pork initiative. 44% of our producers are in this kind of initiative. We are, I could say, the first producer of antibiotic free porks in the world. It's now, I could say, it's quite 800 of our farmers which are involved this kind of production, or from the winning. And since 2018, from the birth, we are some farmers producing antibiotic-free pigs from the birth. Stopping castration was also a good practice for environment and for the environment in our part of production. As I said before, with more efficiency in using feed, we reduce the consumption, and reduce consumption, reduce also the use of land dedicated to animal feed. It reduces the cost of the farmer, and is reduce also the discharge of the pig in nitrogen and in phosphorus. In Copel, as I said, we have a branch specialized in environmental solution. This branch proposes for farmers solution in environmental things. For example, by producing fertilizer, we can export. With production of entire male pigs, we reduce the discharge of our production, and it was a very good way for us to increase our good environmental practice. But the main difficulties, or the main things we have to resolve with the production of entire male pig, is to be sure to have no proteins in our carcass, so that our consumer and customers are always satisfied. In Copel, we have some brands, some quite known brands as Brocéliande and Madrange, and we don't want to take any risk to produce with proteins. For the retailers, which are our customers, it was also their main attempts when we say to them we want to propose entire male pigs. They don't want to have protein meat in their store, and so that we have to find the best way to be sure to guarantee our consumers that there is no odor or no protein meat in the store. That's why we try to find the best technology to be sure of that. In our 3 slaughterhouse, we implement teams of human nose. We try some technology to segregate the carcass, and is the best one to have people to detect the odor, and to be sure that the odor carcass did not go to a traditional commercialization. If one carcass is just smell, it's removed to another value chain, and it's not in the same market. We also find some ways to optimize our production of entire male pig, and some ways to decrease the number of boar-taint carcass. At the beginning, we have 5 or 6% of boar-taint carcass, and thanks to genetic progress in Coppel, we also have a branch in genetic production. So we find non-hodl lines, I could say, and so that's why one way of progress. We also make progress with special feed for an entire male. We also challenge the weight of slots of our pigs, and of course in the farm, with livestock management, with more hygienic good practice, we were able to decrease the parts of boar-taint carcass from 5%, I said, to less than 1 now. So it was very important for us to propose to our farmers good practice to decrease the number of boar-taint carcass. It was important for us, for our farmers, and also for our consumer, to be sure and to guarantee our consumer there is no problem of boar-taint in their meat. So I thank you a lot for to offer me the opportunity to present Coppel experience in this stop castration production, and I'm hoping to answer a question when it will be the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mathieu. Excellent presentation. And as said, we shall come back to you very soon, because we are going to go on with the second presentation straight away. And after that, there will be plenty of time for Q&A. And you may have experienced a little sound problem, but we are working on that, so don't worry. It will only get better from now on. I would like to present the second presenter to you, and that is Dr. G. Bakkers, and he is sitting right next to me here. Many of you probably know him because of his initiatives and his efforts to help try to convince Europe to unify in an attempt to get rid of castration altogether. He is director of the advisory organization Connecting Agri and Food, and he will discuss the fact that, well, stopping with castration, that may have a component, it may have a feed efficiency component, and it also may have a meat quality component. We're going to add a dimension to it, an environmental. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I would like to talk with you about the carbon footprint of pigs in the European Union. We did a research whereby we compared the footprint of entire male pigs versus barrows. As said, in the European Union, it is very recently, and I'm happy to share those results with you in the presentation, whereby we first will talk about the aim, then the method we applied, the data we used, both the observational and the experimental data, then the results, what are the implications for land use and for the production of carbon dioxide equivalents, and I will share my reflection with you. Then in the next slide, to set the stage, we have the European Farm to Fork strategy published in May 2020, which is aiming to make food systems more healthy, more fair, and more environmental friendly. Ending castration improves animal welfare and feed efficiency, therefore contributing to the Farm to Fork strategy in more than one way. And the aim of the research was to estimate, to quantify the impact of ending castration on the footprint of European pig production. In the next slide, I talk about the method we used, APS footprint. To calculate the footprint, we used the Animal Production System Footprint tool. Calculations are based on background data defined by the user, and modeling of emissions according to specified standards and guidelines. There has been many years a discussion how to calculate carbon dioxide equivalents, but in the last few years in the European Union we have some specified accepted standards. As we all know, the pixels may vary in earth composition, housing, feeding, and management. But the APS PIC module enables to investigate how they influence the environmental impact. So the methodological framework is based on published and recognized international guidelines in the TS-RED FCR from 2019. Now then, very shortly about the food composition. We used the calculations we defined this reference system together with experts from the feed industry, and this is a quite normal feed composition with wheat grains, barley, and rapeseed. However, it's always a variation in practice, of course. But you can modify it in the APS tool for varying compositions, but we use this one. Then we had the data. They are both observational and experimental. But first, we had some generic input data to specify first the footprint of the feed, given the composition that we just showed you. And in the composition that we have a footprint of feed that relates 1 kilogram of feed for growing pigs to 1 kilogram of carbon dioxide equivalents. And the footprint of piglet production, one piglet produces 123 kilogram carbon dioxide per piglet. We assumed mortality rate over the countries of 2.5. We use data from 5 countries: Belgium, Denmark, France, Germany, and the Netherlands. Then very important, we had 2 countries where we had abundant and good observational data from commercial farms. We had data from France for the year 2020 with 2,700 farms, and we had for the Netherlands data from 420 farms with the average available over the year 2016 until 2020. The experimental data were from Belgium, Denmark, and from Germany, whereby we from Germany had data from 2 studies. Then the results, very important is in fact the feed efficiency, and then we talk about feed conversion rate. In the report that will be now made public, you can also see the data regarding the energy value of the feed, etc., and slaughter weight. But this is in fact the essence of the results in the report, whereby we see the feed conversion rate for Germany for the 2 studies 2.66 versus 2.31, then 3.00 versus 2.56. For France, it was 268 versus 247. The 0.21 is a bit less pronounced compared to the difference in the Netherlands, where it is 2.66 versus 2.38. So we have a difference of 0.21 and 0.28 out of observational data. But France, it's important to realize that France uses more restrictive feeding compared to the Netherlands. That's a reason for that. And then we had Belgium with 0.3 difference and Denmark with 0.23. So these are the feed conversion rates. Then if we go to the next slide, then here you can see the summary, in fact, in terms of the climate change parameters for barrels and for bores, whereby we have calculated with the APS tool the carbon dioxide equivalent production. So we always use equivalent because it is, in fact, greenhouse gases is carbon dioxide, it's methane, and it's nitrous oxide, and those are in a certain weighing related to the carbon dioxide equivalents. Now, if we look at it, then you can see that we roughly talk about 3.35 till 4.3, varying by the technical results. Per kilogram live weight we are talking here. And if we look at the right column, the percentage change when shifting to boards, It varies from 6 to 13, if you look at it roughly, whereby, in essence, we can say a higher feed conversion is going along with a higher footprint. The footprint of boars is 6 to 13% lower compared to the footprint of barrows. And for the countries with observational data, France and the Netherlands, the reduction ranges from 6 to 9%. Then to the next slide, please. A lower carbon footprint means less land use because we need less feed. Producing boars results in a better feed utilization and a lower footprint with a reduced average from 6 to 9% when shifting from barrels to boars. Now, if we relate it to European levels, whereby we assume that Europe on average has 100 million barrels produced per year, that need roughly 24 kilograms more feed, and we assume an average production of feed ingredient harvest per hectare of 8 ton, which is varying, of course, by ingredient and by country. But then we talk about, in simple calculation, about 300,000 hectares. The 0.35 kilogram carbon dioxide per kilogram live weight less production of boars, taking into account this former slide, results for 100 million barrels that are roughly delivered to the slaughterhouse at 125 kilogram live weight in a lower footprint of in total 4.4 million ton carbon dioxide equivalents per year. Now, having said this, what are the implications of this? They are various, but I will highlight a few. First of all, in terms of carbon dioxide and climate change, it means that given the development of the carbon markets as we see it now emerging all over the world, that it will lead to more and more focus on carbon dioxide labeling in markets. It's already a process going on, but this will also in pig farming, it will also enter pig farming. The second element is the farm to fork, which, as we all probably know, has some conflicting ambitions. We want less greenhouse gas emissions, and we also want organic, etc. And some things are not so easy to solve here. And the conclusion is we still have to deal with paradoxes. But then sustainability, which is related in markets to reputation and trust, whereby I want to highlight the CSRD reporting, which has been approved by the European Parliament by December 2022. And this corporate sustainability reporting directive will mean that business have to show to the European Union what they have done to fulfill their corporate sustainability responsibility by filing an annual report. So sustainability is more than a nice to have issue anymore, because it will be part in, besides the financial reporting, it will be also a sustainable reporting, and not only for the very big companies anymore, but also for many SMEs in Europe. As of 2025, companies with over 250 employees and either more than 40 million turnover or 20 million on the balance sheet, they also have to comply and to fill in and have an audit on their sustainability report. So this is, in my opinion, quite an important driver for future sustainability actions in the food industry. Then to the concluding comments. I think that we must conclude, and we have also highlighted in the report that is now available, that our estimates are in line with the results described in the scientific literature. Ending castration is a potential win-win issue, and the lower carbon footprint brings additional value for markets, given also the carbon dioxide labeling that will enter the markets. And this will be further supported by the fact that ending castration may become for companies a very important item in their CSRD reporting. And more information on that will be on the website of Pig Progress, as well as on the portontheway.com website. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. An impressive presentation, I must say, and very nice to hear all these insights. Annegien, when I hear all this, I almost think it's incredible that castration is so commonplace. What do you think about that?
I think you are right, but there are a lot of beats and slagers around castration. There's not a lack of information. At least it is not available for farmers or organizations. But I'm convinced if you have a lower feed conversion, less infections, less work as a farmer, you have a win-win situation. And it's combined with the lower CO2 footprint. Why won't you do it?
There's a couple of wise words in there. As we are opening the floor for questions, I would like to ask the audience if you have any questions for any of the speakers. Put them in the chat box, and we can address them here. Whilst I was listening to your presentation, I was thinking, well, as I said, we have had the welfare argument, we've had the meat quality component, we've been discussing about feed efficiency. This environmental insight is new. Do you feel that is a game changer in the whole discussion? Do you think that will be how important do you think that is, this new insight?
My guess is that it will be an important element as a game changer. If we look at the last years in Europe, the last 10 years, we saw some countries whereby major food supply chains made the shift to ending castration, whereby animal welfare in relation to reputation and trust is an important issue. It's an ethical issue, animal welfare, and that's related to reputation, and especially it was in Northwestern European countries. I myself think that animal welfare, by the way, is becoming also for the whole of Europe an important issue. If we take into account the actions that are taken by the European Union in the proposals for new legislation. But here we are talking about a market-based approach. And in this market-based approach will be, together with the CSRD reporting directive, it will become for many more companies important to show what they are doing on contributing to sustainability, whereby greenhouse gases is a very important issue in the farm strategy. And therefore, I think that the tipping point for many more companies will be easier reached by ending castration. So it adds up, and I would not be surprised if it adds up more than animal welfare.
I understand that. I would like to ask the same question to Mathieu. Mathieu, do you feel that it might be a game changer, or what? How do you feel? How important this new insight is?
For us, I said stop castration was quite a late practice. We started 10 years ago. So at that time is what not so a question of nor our environmental things or nor our durability. Now it is one. So we produce each year a report or reporting of CSR of our CSR practice, and of course we have welfare indicator and we have indicator on non-castration production. But I have to say for us, ending castration is not yet a subject. It's 10 years ago we will produce it. More than 80% of our producer stop castration, and the one who did not do it because they are in special product which not allow them to produce entire male. So of course it is in our CSR report, and of course it's in our welfare indicators, but it's not for us a new things. It's for Coppel, it's a past subject, I could say.
Thank you. Here in the audience or in our panel, G wishes to comment on that.
Yeah, I would like to add one more element to this discussion, whether or not it will be a game changer. As we observe the food markets the last year in Europe, food is becoming more and more expensive. Here we have also, besides the greenhouse gas emission, the sustainability, the affordability of food becomes also important. And with food whereby we use less feed ingredients, you can better contribute to affordable food. And meat is an important element of the household budget of many European consumers. So I think besides the animal welfare issue and the sustainability issue, it also contributes to the affordability issue, given the fact that food has become quite more expensive in many European countries since the last 12 to 15 months.
I see. Thank you very much. So
Yes, maybe we have a question to Mathieu, because Matilda asked a question if Coppel has considered a castration-free label, and are you advertising about this?
It's a very good question. As you can see in my presentation, there is no mention of stopping castration in our product. And we, of course, we inform our customers. Of course, we have démarche with them to try to valorize it. And we were not able in our link with retailer, and we did not see it was a possibility with the consumer to make a label on welfare and more on stopping castration. It's a good practice for us. It's a good practice for our farmers. It's a good practice for the rentability of our producer, but we were not able to have added value on that subject in the consumer. I will not say the same for antibiotic-free production. Antibiotic-free production, we label it and we have a value, added value. It's not the same. We think that in the attention of our consumer, things are more important for him, and antibiotic-free production is one of them. Welfare is important to be in the market, is important for our CSR good practice. It seems to be not so important at that time. Maybe it could change. At that time, it seems to be not so important for labeling and for labeling for our consumers.
Thank you very much.
If I can,
on your farm, you don't castrate as well. Is that? Could you explain something about how that is happening on your farm? Is it marketed like race without castration, for instance?
We are not marketing it. It's one of the basic things, because you don't want to do anything on your pig. So no tail docking, no teeth clipping, and no castration. But it's not something to communicate. But it's an important thing, because when you think about the animal and the integrity of the animal, it's an important thing in the system we are having on the farm. But it works very well.
I see. Mathieu, if I go back to you for a moment, well, I think around the world people do castrate, and one of the reasons is that they are afraid of odor ending up in the pig meat. So when Coppel decided to move to non-castration, did that lead to complaining consumers?
As I said, when we decided to stop castration, it was because we were challenged by our customer on welfare good practice, and it was a demand of a British retailer, which maybe the demand are not the same in all the country, and it was not a French retailer which has asked us, but we try and we find the best way to stop castration. It's now a demand from our customers, but as I said, it's a demand for our CSR for good practice, but not for the consumers.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I had one more question for you, Mathieu. That's a very simple question and something I would like to ask you because I think, well, as G said, since 2006, there has already been this initiative to say, okay, let's see if we can find some kind of common ground to stop castrating in the European Union. And it's been going on ever since. I've heard a lot of objections, saying, yeah, well, it's not as easy as you think, and we'll have to wait for the slaughterhouses to be all in line and everything. Where many people talk, Copel managed to do it. Why did Copel manage to do it? Could you shed some light on that?
I insist at the beginning. Sorry, I insist at the beginning of my presentation in the organization of Copel because, as I said, we were organized in all the sectors of pig production, from feed, pig production, slaughterhouse, and meat processing. It's very important to manage stopping castration to have a link between farmers and slaughterhouse. In Copel, they all have in the cooperative, so the link is direct and quite easy. For farmer, stopping castration is very benefits. It's a cost for the slaughterhouse. So we manage it because, and we implement stop castration because, as I think it's Ré, we say that it was a win-win practice for us. I could say what we lose in the slaughterhouse, we win more in the farmers. So for us, it was a benefit. But stopping castration questions the links between farmers and the slaughterhouse. If slaughterhouse don't want entire male pig, farmer will not do, even if it's a good practice for them. For us, it was quite easy because everybody is under the cooperative. But I think it's the main difficulties to implement more and more stopping castration is to answer the links between farmer and slaughterhouse. Mm-hmm. And I throw some question on aggressivity of entire male pig. I have to say, I could for 10 years reproduce 15 millions of entire male. We make research on aggressivity. We make research on injury, and we show there was a question, but no economic problem, not really a problem in our farmers.
Thank you, Mathieu. There is also a question in our in the chat about female finisher pigs getting pregnant. Is that anything that you observe, or what would be your solution to that?
Considering the age of slaughterhouse, it's not a problem. We did not separate male and female. We make try. In the question of aggressivity, we make try to separate male and female, but we did not generalize it. And there is no question of a pregnancy or something else because of the age at the slaughterhouse. It's not a subject.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw another question.
At that age, yes, still too young. I understand.
Yes.
To have that, I understand. Yeah, there was one question I also noticed, and that's probably interesting. Did you consider using vaccination, the Improvac, to instead of going the way of not castrating at all?
At the beginning, we make a lot of research. As I said, we made 4 years of research to answer the question of stopping castration and to answer the challenge of some retailer. So we try all the solution, and the Provac was one of them. We did not implement Improvac because of 2 things. French retailer early said they don't like this solution. They don't want to propose to their consumer meats with this kind of treatment, I could say. And the other thing is that for us, stopping castration was very benefit for our farmers. Vaccination is a cost. So on one side we have the benefits for the farmer, and on the other side we have the cost. As I said, we are a cooperative farmer. The solution was very easy to choose for us, and when we find the best way to segregate and to separate bought-in carcass and unbought-in non-odor carcass, for us there was no way to find and to implement something else than stopping castration. We tried all the solutions, but the best one was to stop castration.
I see. I'm looking at my neighbor here. Did you have any question? I have one for G, but yeah. Okay. Well, we just spoke about immunocastration. What is your opinion about that in the bigger scheme of things?
First of all, immunovaccination is an approved method in Europe, so it's safe, it's okay. So in that sense, it's an alternative. But then what we have observed in Europe, that several major food supply chains did not choose for it. And of course, there can be various reasons. Mathieu mentioned already the reason of cost. There's also the aspect in some countries. I know in the Netherlands, the choice was not made for immunovaccination because the integrity of the animal was in the Netherlands in the whole food supply chain an important issue. And the third part is, of course, immune vaccination also contributes to the lower carbon footprint, but compared to entire meals, less. And here we talk about how far can we get. So here, our research, how far can we get with our carbon footprint. So there are 3 elements, in fact, that are mostly in the discussion. The cost, the integrity of the animal, and how far can you get in terms of reducing the feed conversion ratio.
And don't forget the work from the farmer, because he has to do the vaccination 3 times. So that's not that's quite a
job. I see. So immunocastration will help to reduce the carbon footprint, but not as much as just stopping castration would. I see. I had another question, because we haven't spoken about breeding, because also through breeding we can help to avoid bought-in. Could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that Mathieu talked already about detection at the slaughter line as a safety net to prevent the consumer from being confronted with odorous meat. But you also, another aspect is that you first reduce the prevalence of bought-in. We can do it in 3 ways, in fact. We can do it by genetics, by feed, and by management. By management, appropriate housing, group size, clean housing. But if you look at feeding and breeding, which are very important strategies, feed has the advantage, it works directly. You can do it, so to say, tomorrow. Although the last year the costs have been, it's less cost effective than it was before. Breeding is a long-term strategy, but breeding has the advantage, it is very cost effective. We have seen in the Netherlands in major genetic lines that they can reduce their bought-in prevalence by 50%. without having too much focus in the breeding goals only on board, because then you lose some other genetic traits that are important. So it is always the combination of detection at the slaughter line and preventive measures to reduce the prevalence. And the lower the prevalence, the less the pressure on the safety net, because it's a balancing act that you have to optimize throughout the chain. And that was what Mathieu was also mentioning. Copel is a corporation. They have an integrated producer supply chain. And once that you integrate all those measures in a way that the performance of the whole supply chain is the best, the easier is the distribution of the cost, because they are always unevenly distributed across the chain segments. For the former, it's always more interesting to end castration, but the costs are allocated in the other segments. That's why for Copel the advantage is the integrated link. But if you look at it from outside, then it's always the combination of breeding, feeding, housing, and detection.
I see. I have an interesting question here from a veterinarian. It says, normally I would assume that barrows, they move less and they are slower, use less calories for moving and so on, and more for producing meat and fat. But why is this not the way then? Because, well, you say that entire males perform better. Could you share some thoughts on that?
Yeah. I'm not a veterinarian, and of course, indeed, barrows are less active, so to say, and we want the boars not to be too active on the other side. But it is the process whereby the barrows, they produce more fat instead of meat. Protein versus fat. And per kilogram fat, you need 4 times as much feed as per kilogram protein. And that's the basic essence of the difference between the production. A barrow has more fat, also a bit more intramuscular fat, but per kilogram fat you use 4 times as much feed as per kilogram meat, and that's the reason for the difference.
Well, basically, converting it to fat has a lower higher feed conversion.
Conversion ratio. And we have done also some studies in terms of back fat, because you also have to optimize it in the term that you should not go too low in the back fat composition, which is, by the way, an aspect which is also as relevant for the gills as for the boars. But we prefer not to have too low the back fat level, but once you want to increase the back fat level to higher levels, like for example in Swiss is normally, that's very costly. It's quite easy to go from 12.5 to 13, but if you go to 15, then you really need separate marketing programs with additional compensation for the farmer, otherwise it's too expensive.
There was also a question about breeding. So in 10 years' time, we lowered the proteins. And can you tell us something about that? Because I think also Mathieu can something tell about that, but maybe you also can tell something about that.
Yeah, well, we looked in the Netherlands. First of all, we did a study, a scientific paper about to estimate how far can you decrease in which time period. And it was very nice to see. We looked at it 5 years later, whereby we could observe that overall in the Netherlands with the major breeding lines, the protein prevalence was reduced by 50%. And which is in line with the estimations we did beforehand, but it's always nice to have proof of concept, so to say. So we reduced it by 50%, and that helps, of course, to put less pressure on the detection method.
People were asking how we did reduce it. It was because of
by
genomics.
It's genomics, because Now we go a bit into the technical detail. That nowadays you have with the genomics, you can observe, you can analyze the DNA of a pig, you can look at the genetic region, so to say, which are related to taint. And by using genomics, you can much more accurately apply it in breeding programs to reduce the taint prevalence. That has been done in a large program in the Netherlands. And this genomics, there you can have low taint lines to use on the farm.
Any recommendations? Somebody asks here, what are the best breeds even? Is there something to say about that?
There are several breeds, but I would advise the listeners to look at our website, boartain.com. There have been several reports about the genetics, and in the website, all the reports that we have produced are available on it.
Yeah.
And maybe Mathieu, you can also tell something about it.
What?
I'm totally agree with what said Ray. We in Coppel, maybe I have to insist on the genetic way, because in Coppel we also have a genetic selection and a genetic dedicated to Coppel. And since the beginning of our production of entire male, we try to select genetic line with less odor risk, with less taint risk, and now we have a cold one. It's a cold one, known odor line. So taint is very valuable between all the animal, and we were able to select lines with less taint risk. So now we have a specific genetic line called non-odor, as competitive as the other, as efficient as prolific as the other, but with less taint risk. And with this progress, with our feed progress, we also have to not to separate feed between male and female, but to adapt our feeding to the production of entire male because of fattening, because entire male are less fat, so we have to manage it. So we have to give them a special feed, and with this feed we also reduce the risk of taint. And one other is the environmental in the farm. The hygienic level in the farm is quite important in the risk. And as I said in my presentation, at the beginning of our production, we were at I say 5% of the carcass of male have taint. With all of the way of optimization, now we are at 1%, and with 1% is very easiest to manage it at the slaughterhouse. Is very easiest to manage it in the market. To find other markets, it's easier when you have 1% than you have 5. It's quite simple, but and we always try to reduce this, because it's not good for our farmer. It's not good for us to have taint in carcass, even if it's not a lot. But so we always try to make research to reduce it. We make progress, slower than before, but we still make progress.
Merci beaucoup, Mathieu. Thank you very much for your explanation. I'm taking a little look at the clock, and it's time for us, bit by bit, to draw the webinar to an end. But we won't be able to let go before Annegien has kind of shared with us the main takeaway of this webinar. What does she want that everybody remembers of this webinar?
Thanks. I think the ending castration is a double win-win-win. It's better for the pig, for the farmer, for the environment, and we showed some examples. And market acceptance is crucial and the key to success. Today we showed that we can we lower the CO2 footprint, which is very important. it's very environmental friendly, and it's completely it completely fits into the farm to fork strategy from the European Commission. And this together with an maybe important item to the CSRD reporting, I think this makes the lowest CO2 footprint as a game changer in the castration, in ending the castration.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Annegien. And I'm pleased that we could share this webinar with you, and hopefully it has been inspiring. Before I let you go, I have 4 short comments to make, and the first being that Big Progress will be back with more seminars at VIV Asia in March. Even if you are not planning on going to Thailand, you can still attend our 2 seminars that we will be holding there. On Thursday, the 9th of March, we will do a seminar at noon local time about antibiotic reduction. And 1 hour later, at 1 p.m. Thai time, we will have a seminar on gut health. Both of them you can attend on a distance, or also you can view them on demand later on. And how to register you can find at www. Fill out straight after this webinar, and your answers to that will help us improve the quality of future webinars. And that was the last comment I had to make. I would like you to be with us, and I hope it's been an inspiring webinar. I would like to thank Mathieu at a distance to be with us. I'd like to thank Dr. Bakkes as well as Annegien for their interesting input, and I hope to see you soon at future events. Goodbye.